At Ron Holland House Moving Incorporated, our crew has over 80 years of combined moving experience. We have the expertise and equipment to provide professional and quality work on every job. Our moving foreman, Art Schultz, evaluates the structures to be moved in order to determine what tools and materials will be needed for the job. Before the crew can head out to the job site, the trucks are loaded with the needed amount of cribbing, beams, and shim material required for lifting the house off of its foundation. Ole Moss assists Art in loading the truck. Art chooses the main beams for the structure based on the length and weight of the house. He uses a forklift to load the beams onto the trailer in position to be tied down. All dollies, cribbing, and shims are housed inside to ensure quality. Because each job is different, Ron Holland House Moving Incorporated has a wide variety of materials to choose from. Here, shim planks of various lengths and widths are chosen to take to the job site. Jeff Feiner assists Art in loading the shims onto the truck. Another crew member, Monty Top, joins Art in the 2-ton tool truck. This truck contains all necessary hand tools, crib jacks, pumps, levels, and shims commonly used on most jobs. Our custom modified 6x6 Mack truck pulls the beams and cribbing as they head out to the job site. The house is measured in order to evenly place the beams. Basement windows and concrete must be knocked out in order to fit the main beams under the house. The truck which hauled the trailer full of beams and cribbing is also used as a boom truck and a moving truck. Here, the boom is unfolded and extended to move the cribbing and beams from the trailer over to the work site. Two bundles of 5-inch by 6-inch by 51-inch oak beams are used as cribbing to build supports for the main beams. Positioning of the cribs must be accurate. Here the floor is swept clean and marked. Cribbing is handed through the opening in the foundation and stacked to create a secure base for the beams and jacks. A variety of shims are used to make sure the cribbing is set straight and level. A total of 4 cribs will be built to provide even support of the house. Metal tubes support the jack bases that hold the jacks in place. The main beams consist of 2 steel H-beams which will span the length of the house. Beams are placed under the house by the boom truck and pushed in over rollers set on top of the cribs. These 2 main beams, along with the floor joists, will support the house as it is raised and moved. If the house were heavier or more than 1 story, additional beams placed at right angles to the main beams would be used to pick up the perimeter of the house. Shim planks are placed on top of the beams so the beams are tight up against the floor joists. The shims also space the beams correctly to match the thickness of the outside plate in order to evenly distribute the load and to prevent damaging the siding of the house. Here, the jacks are pressing the beams up tight against the house before the house will be lifted off of its original foundation. To maintain safety, utilities must be disconnected by the homeowner prior to working on the house. The owner should cut all pipes and disconnect any electrical cords or heat ducts. Here we are using a cast iron pipe cutter to disconnect the sewer pipe. We have liftoff. The house does not take off as fast as a rocket, but it is still impressive in its own right. If the house were heavier, multiple jacks, in conjunction with a unified hydraulic machine, may be required to raise the house. Our unified machine is capable of controlling 19 jacks at one time and lifting up to 400 tons. As the house is raised off of its foundation, the bolts connecting the house to the concrete can be seen. The homeowner must remove all of the nuts from the bolts in order to allow the house to freely disengage from the foundation. In one stroke, the jacks can raise the house 17 inches. After the jacks have reached the desired stroke position, cribbing is built up to block off the main beams in order to maintain a safe and stable base for the house. The next day, the dollies are brought in to put under the house. Roll beams are used 90 degrees to the main beams to roll the house off of the foundation. The gray beam is a hydraulic sliding bolster used to attach the house to the moving truck.
Okay.
Jacks are placed in the cribbing once again to raise the house in order to make room for the roll beams under the main beams. The crib jacks are adjustable in 1.5 inch increments, which helps position them in the cribbing. Hoses are connected to the hydraulic pump and all 4 jacks. The house is raised to make room for the roll beams. The boom truck brings in the roll beams, moving slowly and carefully past the jacks. Cribbing is built to support the heavy H-beam. Rollers are placed on the roll beam and sent back to sit under the main beams. Each roller is inspected for defects before being sent under the house. Dollies are brought in to support the back of the house. The house will rest on a 3-point system in order to prevent flexing or twisting of the structure. The dollies will each be a point in the back, and the truck will be the 3rd point in the front. The second roll beam is moved into place, and measurements are made to make sure the roll beams are parallel. Rollers need to be aligned in order to roll the house straight.
Those wedges after you get that roller set and put it on the back side so it can't roll backwards.
Wedges are placed on the rollers so they do not move prematurely and to prevent them from going in the wrong direction. Once the jacks are lowered, the house will be sitting on the 4 rollers ready to move.
Just when you get out there, then the house is level. So if you were going to leave it there,
The house will be pulled along the roll beams to rest the main beams over the dollies.
we'll hook the chain on the center.
In this situation, a skid loader is used to pull the house while the rollers are kept straight on the beams. A heavier house would be pulled using the winch on our 6x6 Mack truck. Once the house is positioned correctly above the dollies, the rollers are blocked off to prevent any unwanted movement. The house is off of its original foundation. The back half of the house is jacked up for the rollers to be removed. Roll beams are carefully removed. A bolster is attached to the front of the main beams, which is then connected to the moving truck. Heavy 3-inch bolts are used to securely connect the bolster. The back of the main beams are placed on dollies. The front is jacked up to remove the last roll beam. The moving truck has lowered its boom and is positioned in order to load up the front of the house and move it to the end of the driveway. The hydraulic fifth wheel is raised to take the load and the winch line is connected for safety. In the course of moving the house, the fifth wheel can be used to raise the house over the bridge railings or other obstacles. A house on wheels certainly is something to take a closer look at. Once the house has been pulled to the end of the driveway, cribs will be built to support the house in place of the truck while the house waits for moving day. Moving day has arrived. Moving permits and the utility company have been lined up, and once more the trucks roll in. Flags and signs need to be placed on the house to mark the oversized load. Once more, the truck will be connected to the bolster. Now that the truck is supporting the load, the cribbing is disassembled by Ole Maas. Art Schultz places the somewhat obvious oversized load sign on the front of the moving truck. Monty Top disassembles the other set of cribbing. Jeff Feiner connects the rear oversized load sign. The dollies are connected and their hydraulic cylinders can be controlled within the truck. The electric company is here in case there are any overhead wires that need to be raised or de-energized. Ron Holland, president of Ron Holland House Moving Incorporated and escort of the move, prepares the escort vehicle. The maximum height of the house must be set in order to check wires along the route. The hydraulic sliding bolster can slide 12 inches from side to side if we need to get around an obstacle along the route. The cylinders in the dollies can also go up and down to help maneuver the house. Pulling out onto the road, the house will just make it under the first wire. The dollies can be steered independently from the moving truck to follow the road for tight or wide turns. Jeff steers the dollies onto the road as the house pulls out of the driveway. The escort vehicle has radio contact with the moving truck and leads the way to check the wires. Electrical wire height on this corner has checked out okay and requires no intervention by the electric company. Ole directs Art making the turn onto the highway. Cruising down the highway, they did not disrupt traffic too much. The house is pulling onto the new resting site and is ready to become a new home. We are now ready to reverse the moving process by rolling the house over and setting it down on its new foundation.